Serious, students of Reddit who had a sexual relationship with a teacher. How did it start and how did it turn out? I guess I technically had a sexual relationship with a teacher. She was the lab TA for my invertebrate zoology lab and refused to do anything with me until after the class. After classes, we partied and hooked up quite a lot. After a year of us still being together, other TAs started dating undergrads. 6 years later, we're married and have a kid together. So I actually didn't know she was my teacher. She was maybe 23, 24 and I just turned 17. I was in California during summer vacation. Went to Disneyland, California Adventure, all the fun stuff. Met her while in line for Winnie the Pooh ride. None of my friends wanted to go with me. We had fun, hit it off, and eventually go to her hotel room. Spent the weekend meeting up and hanging out and then we parted ways. First day of the new semester comes around and I see her in the classroom and I'm excited. I didn't know she went to this school and so I went in and sat down and she goes up to the front of the room and introduced herself to everyone. Then we do the whole get to know each other thing and what we did over summer. Got to me, her face turned purple like she couldn't breathe. Not sure if it counts but I dated my high school teacher 6 months after I graduated. He was my junior year history teacher. Had a massive crush on him in class and he probably knew but he never did anything inappropriate. Strictly a teacher-student relationship. He was 29. Got in trouble as a teacher for going against the grain. Had tattoos and a dad bod. I was super into it. Always thought he was really intelligent too but looking back I realize he had just had more time to form his own opinions about the world. During my first semester in college I took a chance and hit him up. We hit it off and dated for 6 months. 3 months in he told me that this was the longest relationship he'd had since he was in high school. I lived with him briefly during summer break in college. One night I went out with some friends and ended up getting roofied and raped. I'm not sure he understood that it was rape because he pretty much broke up with me on the spot when he got home from work and I told him what happened. I packed my shit and called my parents to come pick me up because I didn't have a car yet, lol. Mine may not count but I was 21 and in college and using a Cupid and I matched with this cute girl who's a grad student. We hit it off and our fields of study are similar but not the same so there's no chance there'll be a conflict of interest or anything so we go out on a date to a dive bar. Get a bit drunk, hit it off, go back to her place to drink more and screw. A few days later the semester starts and among my classes I'm taking a statistics for people who can't do math class and who should be my teacher but Miss let me lick wine off her tits. For like ethics reasons I couldn't keep screwing her while she was my teacher but once the semester was over we hooked up a few more times. There was a super hot student teacher that was at our school. So he was only like 22-23 maybe. Does that count? I was 17 and it was at our graduation dinner when we had snuck a bottle of passion pop in. So we were pretty tipsy. I told him I always thought he was hot and before I knew it his hands were down my pants. We still had about 3 weeks to go before we left school. So spent the next week fucking around the school and nearly getting caught a bunch of times. It was pretty fucking hot tbh and I still think about him from time to time. Boned a teacher's aide intern that was a student at local community college my senior year. She was previously a student at this school and lived relatively close to my neighborhood. I had a study hall after lunch which essentially meant I had a 2-hour lunch. She was only 3 years older and we had flirted a lot when she was still in school at the HS my sophomore year. Unfortunately not everyone in this thread situation was as casual. My heart goes out to anyone that was actually abused. Technically not a teacher, more like a trainee teacher, not quite sure how to call it in English. I was 16, she was 22, she wasn't only hot as fuck, but even played the same games as I did. Had a similar humor and she studied to become a history ed teacher, my 2 absolute favorite subjects. Over time, she figured out I was very good at IT stuff so she asked me to teach her more advanced programming stuff. She was very much at the beginning, so I had a lot to teach her. After a month of meeting up for purely educational purposes, she asked me out for a movie, which we actually watched, and one of the best blowjobs I have ever received NGL. We pretty much were together for 3 years until she had to move away. We're still in contact though through an MMO we play, but she's married now, so I'm not getting one of those BJs again. When I was 17 I had a fake id and went out to the bar with a couple older friends after a hockey game. We met a group of girls out and we hung out for most of the night. I ended up going home with one of the girls. We hooked up that night. We exchanged numbers and I left in the morning. So Monday comes around, I go to school and I walk into my first period class and the same girl I hooked up with is the supply teacher. Her face was about as red as an apple and I was strutting my seat like Vince fucking McMahon. Got together with my college language teacher. Ended up dating for 2 years. Living together for 1 and almost getting married. Broke up because we were fighting too much. Was great until it wasn't. I slept with my art history professor as a freshman in college. It was a class mostly focused on Chinese and Japanese ancient art. I was having trouble with the class and all the data dump of information. I asked her if I could do some extra credit work. She said to come to her office later that day. We started talking more and more because she liked my art, or she was just flirting with me. Now that I think about it, well, she asked me over to her house. She wanted to show me some of her art. She was in her late 40s and I was 18. I didn't think anything about it. Then, when I showed up at her house, she said she had to go change real quick. After a minute or so, she called me into the bedroom. When I saw her in her bra and panties, laying on her bed, I quickly thought back to the time we spent together and realized that I had it all wrong. But, I was happy to be wrong at that time. My martial arts instructor. I was 24, he was 51. He made the first move when he asked me to stay after for privates. Obviously, there was a clear power imbalance. He set up the school so he was basically a god. It was honestly pretty hot, but very intense. We loved each other a lot. I was kicked out of the school when his business partner found out, which was super fucking painful because I loved the art and the people. It was like my community. We are still friends, but sometimes I hate him for all I went through. I fell in love with the workshop supervisor at my university that guides the workshop that I need for my education. She is about a year older than I am. I am doing some small arts and crafts and leatherworking. She was interested in getting something and she bought something custom. I can't remember how it started out, but for some reason or another, we had some drinks which ended in a night spent together and a sexual relationship. We discovered an attraction to each other. She went to the faculty director with the situation and explained it. Since she cannot give marks on my work and is only a guide in the eyes of the university, they approved of the relationship. That was about 3 years ago. We are still together as I am finishing my education. The relationship moved on from the sexual flirt which it all started with to something deep. We live together for 2 years now and she helps me something with running the 2 companies that I set up aside my study. When I finish my education next year I will even propose to her. Small edit. I just want to clarify that at the start of this relation we well pasted the 18 years old mark. I was doing some work with one of my lecturers outside of class and she said I could stay at her place in the spare room. There was no spare room and I awkwardly had to call my girlfriend to pick me up because the lecturer was really drunk and upset I wasn't playing. She somehow ended up with my passport and refused to return it, which involved a fuck ton of efforts to replace, and I had to report it stolen. I found out that she ended up in a mental health hospital shortly after. Never heard from her since. When I was 15 and in HS I had a new English teacher right out of college, 22, and we started talking about the stories I would write in class and one thing led to another and we would hook up 3-4 times a week for 2 years until she took a better job closer to her home. She was from out of state originally. I looked her up many years later hoping for another go, but she was happily married with 3 kids. Oddly enough I became an English teacher and we are friends who visit frequently. Side note, this was back in the 80s and she never pushed me for anything. I was actually the one who pursued her and got lucky that she was lonely and away from her family. I was 16 when I was starting to figure out my sexuality and I had a massive crush on my teacher. I was absent from class for a bit, and she offered to help me catch up. We exchanged numbers. She's a good 18 years older than I am. By the end of the semester we were talking non-stop and it became quite flirty. I knew she was not good for me, but continued anyway. Nothing sexual happened between us, but it became pretty serious. Then something just clicked inside her and she didn't talk to me as much and didn't want to spend as much time together. We drifted apart and she moved to another school for a better job opportunity. I saw her a few times after that just for lunch or coffee, over the course of 2 years. But I haven't seen her in 2 years. I wish I could get an explanation as to why she left me high and dry. I mean, I get it. I was 16. But then she shouldn't have gone after me. I often get the urge to message her, because I miss her. I miss having that connection with someone. Honestly would have sworn I loved her. Edit. Spelling. Slept with a teacher in college. I was 18, he was late 20s. He was hot, I was hot. Went to his house, had one of the best sessions of sex I've ever had. He decided to only have it as a one-time thing, which I agreed to. Never told anyone about it because it was consensual and no one's business. Although I do remember having a conversation with him after the act in college with other students present, and he said something which he had said while we were together at his house. Never blushed so hard in my life. When I was a junior in college, I found my professor on a dating app. We had a temporary relationship for 2 years and I moved to his apartment during my last semester. When I graduated, I moved out of the country and we still keep in touch. We're both guys. I was in law school about to study abroad in China when my friend recommended we take an intro to Mandarin class so we have some idea what people are talking about. I notice the teacher is really cute. So at the end of the class I flirt with her and she invites me to a party she's throwing. One thing led to another and I dated her for a summer. She was only 5 years older than me, but it was so great. I slept with one of my professors in college. At the time I was 19 or 20 and she was in her mid-30s. I went to see her during her office hours. We talked for a few minutes and when I went to leave she gave me a long hug and told me, "You give really nice hugs," as she held onto my arms. I asked for her number and went on my way. We exchanged a few flirty text messages over the next few days before she invited me over to her apartment to help her hook up a new TV she had bought. We ended up sleeping together about 10 times before she moved away to take a new job at a different school. I went to a vocational high school and attended the culinary program for 3 years. The baking instructor pastry chef was 7 years older than me and we grew up in the same small town. When I turned 18 and he left for another profession, we went on a few dates and had sex a couple times. We weren't a good fit together and ended on amicable terms. Pretty uneventful.